Welcome to Pens, Ink and Paper Sydney. Today we're going to review one pen and one ink, which is our normal format. So I've been able to access the very elegant Ohnishi Seisakusho fountain pen from Japan, and we're going to match that up with a very elegant shimmer ink from Diemen's called Firefly, which is their Ink of the Month 2025, which actually relates very well to my birth date. Totally appropriate. This is Diemen's ink website, and this is their Ink of the Month recently, Firefly. So I purchased some of this to swatch it and just review it out of interest, because I'm a great aficionado of Diemen's ink. What interests me most, I guess, is their swatching and how realistic that is in terms of how we can reproduce that. So let's have a little closer look at this beautiful artisan handmade Japanese pen, Onishi, beautifully coloured, called Sky and Clouds, which is a very apt name. I think it's a very good match with the coloration of the Diemen's Firefly ink. I'm a great fan of the Onishi pens. They're very smart. They use a German Schmidt nib. This is a fine nib. It's been beautifully turned and polished with depth of colour and reflectivity. I love the elegance and the understated design of this pen. Beautiful clip, the rounded ball, the body ring. It's very light, but it has a beautiful feel in the hand, and it's a very, very smooth writer. The disadvantage we have is that the fine nib is not ideal for highlighting the elegance of the Firefly inks. As such, I've opted for swatching with a paintbrush, a glass muddler, and the Kakamori nib, which is the traditional pathway that I normally follow. So this Onishi fountain pen is almost a pocket pen. It's very light acetate, which has been hand turned, with, you can see the gold gilt trims on the fountain pen, the body ring and the clip. It's only really 18 grams with ink in it. The standard reference, in my opinion, is 30 grams, but this is the style of pen. It gives us a lightness and ethereal feel, and the pen itself is extremely elegant and classically Japanese detail. You can see it sits very nicely in the hand. Has no major steps, and to me it ticks all the boxes in terms of elegance and functionality. So the pen, when capped, is around about 13 centimetres. So you can see it's a fairly dainty pen. Normally you'd expect the fountain pen to be about 15 centimetres long. Yeah, this Onishi pen was quite difficult to source. I ended up accessing this pen through a boutique English company called Choosing Keeping. Beautifully packaged, artistic and elegant presentation. So this pen carries a converter which has plenty of ink capacity, and it allows you to use a variety of inks of your own choice. So here is the Diemen's Ink of the Month, April 2025, Firefly. Arrived beautifully boxed with the gold on the top and really delightful artwork. So you can see the lower 100ml shimmering fountain pen ink, April 2025. The bottle itself is substantial and carries a lot of weight. Superb artwork, and you can see it's just how heavy this shimmer is sitting on the bottom of the bottle, which we'll then have to shake and rotate before we swatch this to make sure we get the full effect. But you can see it's got micro particles of gold shimmer. Let's see if we can swatch some of this ink, see how it turns out on the paper. This is a Lecterm 1917 paper. So you can see this ink is a light translucent ink. It's very, very liquid. Very little viscosity. And you've got to really disperse the shimmer to have any chance of trying to reproduce what Van Diemen's have on their website. To me, it's a very subtle ink, and it will transform definitely as it dries. Extremely wet. So this ink, as it dries, starts to then highlight the shimmer on the surface of this ink. And the ink itself starts to change its character and saturation as it transforms on this 100 GSM Lecterm 1917 paper. We'll look at the ink on some other papers in a moment and highlight just how difficult it is to gain the full appreciation of this ink in standard light. So then I've used various different applicators to get this ink onto this finer Tomo River paper, 52 GSM, which is a notorious paper for highlighting, shading and shimmer in various inks. As much as I tried, I could not duplicate the intensity of the hues or the shimmer as highlighted on the excellent Van Diemen's website. So on the top, I've used a Dominant Industry glass ink muddler to lay as much ink down as possible. And then I used a paintbrush then to really lay on even more ink, allow it to set and dry and stabilise. You can see with the Kamakari nib that the ink itself is quite pale and pallid, and this ink's been dried for quite a period of time. So this ink's now dried for about 5 minutes, so we'll have a closer look at it under bright light. The description of this ink on the Van Diemen's website, I would think, is extremely elegant, beautifully written prose. Our fire ink is a lightly saturated dusky blue-grey purple that transforms as it dries, revealing subtle hints of blue and pink. The gold shimmer represents the fireflies themselves, adding a warm, fleeting light to your writing or artwork. Well, I don't think I've been doing a lot of writing with this ink, but certainly as an artistic ink, it's right up there as being elegant and sophisticated. So what are my final thoughts on the combination of the Onishi Sky and Clouds fountain pen from Japan and the Australian or Tasmanian Van Diemen's Firefly Ink of the Month, April 2025? Well, it's interesting when I've swatched this just with a paintbrush. I've shaken the bottle up very thoroughly, dispersed the ink, and then I've gone right to the bottom of the ink container to pick up as much gold as I possibly could. And that's greatly enhanced the sheen and the gold effect on this ink, which looks very mystical and visually very, very attractive. So, the thing that struck me most was just how very thin this ink is. As a result of that, the gold particles of shimmer precipitate very, very rapidly to the bottom of the ink bottle, which means unless you disperse and shake the ink thoroughly, you will miss out on the shimmer effect. This is what I term a party or artistic ink. Could well be ideal for wedding invitations, birthday party invitations. Definitely not suitable for everyday writing. There's a subtle interplay of the hues as the ink sets and transforms on the paper from blue to grey to purple hues with a superimposed gold shimmer. It's another highly creative ink made by the artisans at Van Diemen's. And if you're looking for a creative, perhaps feminine, translucent ink with gold shimmer, this is the ink that you should purchase. What are my final thoughts on this beautiful handmade Japanese Onishi pen? I love these pens. I love the artisanship. I love the turned acetate, the gold embellishments, the elegant simplicity, and particularly the gold German Schmidt fine nib. What a magnificent fountain pen with a beautiful feed.